All right. So, what does it really take to become elite when nothing was handed to you? Today's guest didn't reinvent his health or his career. He reinvented his citizenship as well. So, from immigrating to the US, becoming a citizen, mastering scientific frameworks, and leading with purpose, he really embodies what this show is all about: truth, systems, and sovereignty, right? So, let's welcome Matthias to SPG Unfiltered. Matthias.
Thank you so much. That's such an incredible introduction, dude. I'm like, I got fired up from that, bro. That's good. Thank you.
I'm working on it. I'm playing with a couple different things and introductions,
That
having
was
some fun with
perfect.
it.
That was perfect. That's a nice fucking hype right there, bro. Thank you. Thank you.
So let's talk about becoming elite and what that meant for you. So, where did you grow up, and what role did that play in ambition in your early life?
So I'm born and raised from Buenos Aires, Argentina. I grew up with my mom. My parents got divorced when I was probably like 1 or 2 years old. So I don't even have a conscious memory of living with both my parents. And in a way, that's a blessing because I know people that deal with the divorce, like live through it. They kind of build this resentment, or it affects them heavily. It's like for me, that's the normal. For me, the normal was being raised by my mom and visiting my dad every now and then, every year or so. So, like I just said, I come visiting since I was like 5 years old, something like that, at least once a year. There were a couple times that I came twice a year, and just like for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something
So
like
your
that.
dad was a U.S.
He's also
citizen.
from Argentina, but yeah, he's a US citizen. He came here for work, and then he got the sponsorship and everything through work. So coming and going, I always loved the culture. I always loved the country. Always here in South California, and I hope you cannot hear that fucking dog.
That's all right. There's only so much we can do about dogs.
Sorry.
So what did becoming a citizen mean to you emotionally, mentally, since you had that relationship tied to the country so early?
That's the fun part. So of course, like I was saying, coming to live here would have been like a dream. And when my dad told me, he's like, "Hey, I would love for you to, as soon as you finish your high school, come here so I can sponsor you the citizenship before it gets too late because you cannot do it after a certain age." So, finished high school, 18 years old, moved here right like after summer in there. So around February, I was here, and it was like, of course, like a childhood dream in a way. Like I always wanted to live in the US because all the movies are based in the US and a lot of the things are like the movies. So I'm like, wow, that would be amazing. And throughout this, it took me 10 years. So 10 years ago, is when I moved here and I started the whole process.
So that's quite the process.
Well, the thing is, I'm gonna say it that way. I'm gonna say it this way. I could have gotten like 5 years ago, but because
Oh,
of money situations and just life going on, I asked my dad, it's like, is there really a benefit that I would get immediately from getting the citizenship right now? I'm not planning on leaving. I'm not planning on being like abroad or outside the country for over 6 months, which is the period that you're allowed. And he's like, yeah, not really. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna wait. Right now, my green card was expiring, so I'm like, I either renew the green card or get my citizenship, so might as well. But like you ask about the emotions after 10 years, I wasn't thinking I'm gonna feel this way, but it's like the very first purpose that I came here, it's done. It's accomplished. It's it's secured. Now I can officially call the US my home. And I was texting my friends and family as I was driving back home from the immigration department service. And I was like, I can conquer the world right now.
well, and
Like
that
you,
was when we all saw that you posted it
yeah,
in like the group chat and everything. We were all so excited for you because that's awesome.
dude,
That's
that is fucking amazing.
we love hearing stories like that. What do you wish more Americans understood about identity and opportunity when it comes to things like that?
I think Americans don't realize how great of an opportunity, how great of a blessing it is to be living in the US. That's why they call it like the American dream is people from outside the US see the difference in opportunity and quality of life and everything of that aspect. And a lot of Americans, they take it as granted because they were born here and they don't know what it is like to live outside the country. So they're just like, yeah, it's okay, it's normal. But us coming from another country, it's like it's a whole different life. Like you were just born again. You were given a second chance, and it's a
Yeah, and I
truly a
think
blessing to be able to do it.
think a lot of people from America wind up romanticizing anything else just because they haven't really been anywhere. You know what I mean? Like you said, like I've never been to Argentina, so I can't speak on it, right? But like even just traveling outside of the country to like Japan, Korea, like you really do see how the world operates in such a different way when you're outside the U.S. Pros
But
and
yeah,
cons for sure, but yeah, the opportunity, like I don't think people realize how different day to day life is
yeah, I was
for so
gonna
many
say that
people.
because yeah, you they can go visit. The dollar usually goes a longer way in most countries other than like Europe and the UK. But living in one of those countries compared to just visiting and vacationing, even if it's for an extended time, it's completely different, especially for people who are like us coaches that we are able to work from our computer. We can work anywhere. That is still different because you're still working for within the US, let's say, monetary system, and then making your dollar go a longer way. But you're not living, working, and experiencing what it actually is like to work for the country you're residing in. Whether it be Japan, I don't know if even Japan is better or worse compared to Argentina, but for example, Southern America countries or some like African countries, maybe. I'm just speaking out the top of my head. I may be wrong, but I know for sure that the work life compared from Argentina to the US is completely different. The quality of life is completely different unless you nail a very, very good job, which is very unlikely.
At that point, because I know in a lot of Central and South American countries, like the good jobs that you're talking about landing are American companies for a big portion of it, as far as having that relationship with America. So how does that kind of factor into all of that for you? I mean, did you grow up seeing like that these good jobs, the people that were living well were working with American companies? Like, is that kind of what drove you to it, or was it more just from your dad and from your family?
It was more from my dad and my family. So what my dad experienced was a US company went to Argentina and they brought them here. It's not like they were hired in Argentina and they stayed working there. No, they were brought in because they were looking for people who were bilingual and everything, especially for Southern California.
Which
But
is hard to find in America, surprisingly.
I know, but when it comes to what you're saying about American companies hiring abroad, that I believe it grew up exponentially during COVID and when the ability to work remotely started to be more of a necessity in a way. And I had a friend that was working for a Brazilian company at the time, and he was getting paid in US dollars. And he was probably getting paid like, I don't know, $2,000 for a full-time job, which is not nothing here but in Argentina, just for you to have an idea, at that time, rent for a very nice apartment in a very nice area, let's say, for example, here it will be San Diego, two-bedroom apartment, whatever, it will be $140, $200.
Yeah, so 2 grand is quite a
You
bit of
go a
money.
long way.
Two
Yes,
grand is really like 20 grand to us. Like it's
exactly.
almost like 10 times.
Yeah, so by doing so, you can really have a great quality of life. And a lot of people stay in Argentina right now because of that. But before COVID, before the remote-based jobs, there was not much of that. They either hired you to go work to their country, or a good job would be a business owner or the OGs, great jobs like lawyers, doctors, surgeons, all this kind of stuff, CEOs of companies and alike. But that was it. We were still working and earning in the Argentinian peso.
Right, right. So what got you into health as a career? Because obviously we can say America is great for opportunity. America is not great for staying healthy unless you know what you're doing. I do think a lot of other countries you almost don't need as much health knowledge because like Whole foods is what there is. You know what I mean? For the most part, like you're eating meat, carbs, whether it's potatoes,
Awesome.
rice, and then like fruits and vegetables. Like that's it. So what got you into health when you came over?
So, first of all, it will be starting because I was not in shape whatsoever. I was like around 220 pounds, I would say, but with no muscle at all. Like, I did work out here and there, but the usual, like you hear people training for 3 months, then quitting, then going back again for a couple more months, then stopping again, back and forth, back and forth.
Mhm.
And especially since in Argentina during my teenage years, no one really worked out. Partying was the thing, going out, drinking, even smoking cigarettes there is like very, very normal.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I think
yes,
cigarettes is probably the one thing that is like global between cigarettes and alcohol. That's like a universal thing just about.
a good thing here is like kind of like looked bad upon.
Uh,
Like when I came here and I was still a smoker, people would be like, "Oh, you smoke," like you were, I don't know, praying for something bad to happen. And in Argentina, I was like, "Oh, okay." In Argentina, it's like so
yeah.
normal. Even people who don't smoke will may smoke like what is called the social cigarette. Like
Yeah,
after
yeah. If you're hanging out after a meal or something like that, or yeah, absolutely.
going back to it, so I was in no shape and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't work. I couldn't study. I couldn't do anything because I still didn't even have my social security.
Mhm.
So I only had a Neos Fitness, a gym a mile away from my house. I'm like, oh, I might as well. So got into it, got a trainer at the time because I didn't know anything, and was it for like just 6 months. And I started. He taught me a lot of things. And he gave me a meal plan, but when I counted the calories at the time, it was like 3,500 calories, and I'm like, bruh, there's no way. But there was such things like such funny concepts at the time that is like he put grapefruit on my breakfast and he was like grapefruit helps burn fat and I'm like what? At the time I
Yeah,
believed it, but now I'm like really. So I'm
yeah.
like
It's crazy because like I was in a similar situation. Like when I started going to the gym, I actually started working at a Planet Fitness because free gym membership, and it was a local gym, and it was just there. You know what I mean? And now, like looking back at it, like you're saying, like there was so much stuff. Like even with the trainers, like the coaches that worked there, uh, who were like in good shape. A couple of them competed, stuff like that. But looking back now, like some of the advice that they gave people, or even like me, when I was trying to figure out how to get past that like 180-pound mark or whatever I was at the time, because I was a twig. It's insane the level of misinformation that even today is still like genuinely wholeheartedly believed by so-called professionals. I think it's honestly a little disgusting to an extent because that just means that you're clearly not educating yourself. You're not trying if you still believe like that level of knowledge, right?
and I think that
So,
has a lot to do because nowadays there's so much more educational sources. There's so much more master classes, so much more mentorships. And back then, there probably wasn't much besides Reddit forums, the bodybuilding.com things, and people who would share
yeah,
their
I forgot about
experience.
bodybuilding, doc.
And so people could only learn so much. And if they wouldn't experience anything or they wouldn't try it by themselves, they were just repeating what they read and sounded about right. So I wouldn't blame them much back then. I would blame them now
No,
because
absolutely.
so many things, if you still believe, like, and I would even say like the old school bodybuilders, the older folks that are still believing in the fish thins the skin, the fish and
Yeah,
asparagus peak week, stuff like that.
and I see kids regurgitating that stuff still too because they see some old clip from a bodybuilding documentary from like the 80s or 90s and they just are like, well, it worked for them. And it's like that's not what worked for them though. Like, yeah, that's not the part that actually worked.
But they also used to do like so many more drugs, honestly, than we do.
Well, because they were the ones that figured it all out. You know what I mean? They figured it out for us. They started that.
God, they used to do like very little variety, so much more of it. But then they would come off completely. So it's not like they were still cruising or anything. They would just blast it and cut it pretty much.
Yeah, which I mean is seriously overlooking your physiology. Like it's completely ignoring it pretty much, which I mean we see happen all the time amongst, everyday people, right? I don't know, what does your clientele base look like for the most part?
For the most part, I would say it's just the Gen Pop,
General lifestyle kind of client? Okay.
but more still towards the I want to look like a bodybuilder, but I don't want to compete.
Yeah, they just wanna be jacked. They wanna be they yeah, I get it. That was kinda how I started when I was, like, 20, I think. But so, usually people that we work with are kind of on the high performer end, because usually people that want to take control of their life and want to build muscle, burn fat, they wanna just feel better, they wanna perform better in their personal lives, and I've seen it with everybody. I don't think there's a single person out there who hasn't improved their health and fitness, and it directly related to improving the rest of their life, whether it was personal relationships, professional development. But like we were saying, physiology is consistently overlooked. What do you see most often people overlook, even the people that are like on top?
I think a lot would just overlook their lab markers. And this is also starting to come out relatively recently about optimal markers, optimal levels versus urine range.
Acceptable ranges? Yeah.
Yes. I didn't even know myself until I started working with TM at the end of 2023, and I would say even more on 2024, where thinking like you're in range, then you're good. But then I come to realize having a 300 milligram testosterone, it's absolutely awful. Like you're dreading life, you're begging to die, basically.
Well, I got, when I was in the Marine Corps, I was like, I feel like shit. And I was like, and I go to the gym at the time 6 days a week, right? Unless I was doing a field op or something like that. Like, as long as my schedule was normal, I was in the gym 6 days a week. And I was like, I don't feel like I should as a 20 something year old who like takes care of himself, right? And I wasn't really taking great care of myself. I was drinking all the time. I was eating fast food and shit still. But to me, I was exercising. So that should have been enough.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I went and got my blood work done, and it came back in the quote unquote acceptable ranges, like you said, right? But it was the low end still. And so that's kind of what made me start looking at my own stuff. And I was in like, because I was in the like the 200s. And I was like, there's no reason that a 20 something year old should be in the 200s. So I started kind of looking into all that stuff on my own. I actually did wind up getting it up into like the 300s, 400s, but I had to do it specific ways and be careful about it because in the military you're under pretty strict conditions. And it wasn't even so much like, well, I'll get caught like doing like testosterone or something if I want to. It's more of being able to keep the consistency of a schedule,
Yeah.
because you can just all of a sudden now you're leaving for a couple weeks, you know what I mean, or something like that. So I didn't want to start doing any exogenous hormones in the military for that reason. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy to see what we're told is acceptable, because 200, 300 testosterone readings,
Definitely.
as yeah, that I was miserable, but that's, I think, more normal or more widespread. I don't want to say normal because it's not normal, but it is a almost an epidemic, I would say. I don't know if this is just something in America because of our diet, or if it's more worldwide as far as the testosterone levels, but I know at least here it's a real problem.
Yeah, that's a very good question comparing other countries and other cultures when it comes to what are their average, well, let's say with average levels are at. But definitely within America and even today's days, people don't really work out. People don't really eat how they should be. They may eat healthy, but then you see most of them are just not even eating protein. They just eat avocado toast, pasta, or then maybe some chicken and potatoes, stuff like that once a meal. And I actually used to eat like that. Like some meals were just raviolis, some meals were a little bit of a piece of meat or something, or sometimes it was just spaghetti with in Argentina we used to do like a lot of sour cream or butter and then Parmesan cheese and that's it. For breakfast, toast with same thing, sour cream and jelly. So in that matter, I don't think
Sour
it's
cream and jelly?
yeah, it's like a cheesecake in a toast.
What? We're not gonna slide past that. Sour cream and jelly. I have never heard that before. You're the banana guy too, though, aren't you? With
Weird
the
food guy.
banana and chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I
But
know Caden said he tried it and it was good. So
dude, I would say I know my mixes are weird and some of them more than others, but every person that tries them likes them. Even like I'm gonna admit they're not my original idea. Most of the things like the chicken rice banana and almond butter and the chicken rice with cinnamon and mustard, I got them from Nick Walker. He was doing that a lot. So I'm like, he's probably one of my biggest idols. So I'm like, oh, that looks good. I'm gonna try it. And I tried it and it's fucking fire. And everyone who would like, cinnamon and mustard is like, bro, try it. They tried it,
what?
they liked it.
I actually just cooked this week's chicken. I slow cooked it overnight in the crock pot with some hot pepper jelly and some Thai sweet chili sauce.
And you tell me,
It was
you
so
put
good.
jelly on the chicken and you tell me
Yeah,
about
dude, I was so afraid. I was like, I don't know how this is gonna taste. I was like, this is gonna go one of two ways, and I was like, in either way, I'm gonna have to eat all of it because I'm making 5 pounds of chicken.
yeah. But going
But
back
it
to,
was it was delicious.
oh, I bet. But going back to the toast thing, I think that's a very Argentinian thing. And even my dad, when I came here, he kind of still did it, like sour cream and then like any kind of jelly, strawberry, blueberry, whatever. But in Argentina, I don't know. I think it's a lot more normal. If you think about it, the sour cream is like a cream cheese kind of thing. And
Yeah,
then the jelly is, so it's basically like cheesecake-ish.
yeah, I
Another
could
thing
see that.
is the dulce de leche, the Argentinian caramel, also on top of sour cream. I don't know, it just tastes good, or even with butter, but I see that as such a normal thing. And when I come here and I do it, even when I did, for example, one of my meals is pasta, and for my fats, I used sour cream, and then I put like marinara sauce and everything.
Yeah, it just gives it that more like creamy kind of texture
And it's
to it, right?
pink sauce, and people were like, "You put sour cream on your pasta?" I'm like, "What?"
I feel like I've discovered things like that just from like when I was learning how to track my macros and everything essentially and like cooking for myself.
Yeah.
You really do just kind of figure out like, oh, okay, like I have one meal left for the day. I need protein, carbs, and fats. And then you're like, I have these three things available. Let's put them together.
And
That is
sometimes
what
it's a hit,
happens.
sometimes it's a miss. I would 100% stand on the fact that bodybuilding does help a lot of people with creativity. Either you are very creative or you're not at all, and you eat plain ass, boring ass meals.
And I think that's okay. I think that's
Yeah,
okay. If that's what works for you, stick to it.
I would say it's okay as long as you're not complaining that
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
boring. I have to eat this again, because that is a problem when it comes to lack of creativity. And I love how Ross Flanagan says it. That is like, if you are eating boring meals, then you have a creativity issue. You don't have a eating issue or something. And it's true. And especially on prep, you become super creative with things. And I just started implementing. I love the sweet and savory kind of mix things. So I would even do on prep blueberry compote and throw it on top of chicken, rice, and eggs. I don't know. I don't want to eat things.
See the eggs, you lost me.
That
You
is the
lost
weird
me on
thing.
the eggs part.
I didn't tell you that was the weirdest thing, and I probably wouldn't tell people to like do it as much as I do with the chicken banana and all this stuff. But then people
But I
say
feel like
meat.
if you just have the eggs on the side, you're good because you can have eggs with any meal if you ask me.
But see,
I
I
mean,
don't care for having a second plate of anything. I just mix everything together. So in a
I
way,
do understand that.
lazy.
I'm the same way. I'm the same
Yeah.
way. Like pretty much no matter what I'm eating, it's gonna wind up getting like
But then
blended together.
the funny thing is, I do those weird things, and then I see on Instagram like going viral the ground beef, honey, and banana, or if not, like the one that they do, like the ground beef, sweet potato, cottage cheese, honey, and avocado. I'm like, And people tell me I'm the weird one, and they're doing all those viral shits. I'm like, bro,
See, you know what that tells me? That tells me that you missed out on a whole market you could have just
uh,
attacked. You know what I mean?
you know how many
So you
times people
got,
are like you should do an ebook with all those weird recipes? I'm like, yeah,
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, because people look for variety. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people, like, that's a big issue people run into is getting bored of their diet basically, and they just don't know what to do. And I think, like you said, like it's maybe a combination of being lazy or just not knowing, right? And so maybe getting some of those like out of pocket ideas or things that seem kind of crazy might help people branch out a little bit.
yeah,
I mean, I'm all about outsourcing, right? I love outsourcing whatever you can, which is why, I even coaches have coaches, right? We outsource our own coaching to someone else, most of us anyway. But, kind of like we were talking about before, people ignoring their biology. I think they're also starting to outsource it, whether it's a coach or I think coaches are the best way to go personally, but people are talking to their doctors, and obviously there's the rise of GLP-1s like Ozempic and semaglutide. What how do you feel about those? I have mixed feelings about GLP-1s
I love them.
specifically.
I will straight up say well, not Ozempic, but tirzepatide and retatrutide, I absolutely fucking love them. And it makes me feel a little bit of like a hypocrite in a way because I have not tried retatrutide yet. I did try tirzepatide, but I have a couple clients taking it, and I've seen the results, and I know what they do, and I know what they can bring, and I feel they're an amazing tool, and I fucking love them. I will eventually use Retatrutide once I see the fit for it, probably like later in the off season to keep body composition properly. Once it gets like deeper and higher on the calorie wise and also on prep, I seriously think they're amazing tools. I do have a problem with people who don't know how to use it or just abuse it.
I think is what's happening when they get it from their doctors a lot of times.
Well,
Because I
because
had
I
I had one girl come to us to start talking. She was 90 pounds and she was having like some I don't remember the exact details. I want to say it was some sort of gut dysfunction. She had some like digestion issues essentially. She was having trouble losing or being not even losing weight, but just maintaining a healthy weight. And the doctor wanted to put her on GLP-1s, and I was like, that's don't do that.
why?
Don't do that. I don't know. I
Like,
honestly my honest opinion is that doctors are just pushing drugs like they've always done, like we've always said, like the whole painkiller epidemic, right? And leading into opiates. I blame doctors for a lot of that as well, putting people on painkillers for, long periods of times, things like that, and stuff they don't need, not giving them the proper way of getting on or off of drugs. They do the same thing with women and birth control.
yeah.
I know women personally who have been on specific birth controls who, when they got a new doctor, a female doctor, they were told you should not have been on this birth control for any extended period of time. So I think GLP-1s are a great tool, just like anything else.
Yeah.
I think nicotine is a great tool. I think marijuana is a great tool. I think a lot of things that people caffeine, right? A lot of things that people see as negatives can be great tools, and they're just seen as negatives because of the way that they are implemented. But my issue is that the GLP-1s, when people are getting them through their doctors, do not seem to be being implemented properly. Is that something you're seeing as well with clients, or do you have people coming to you saying like my doctor has me on GLP-1s and now because they're not fixing the root issue
Hmm.
when they're getting the GLP-1s from their doctors. So what are you seeing as far as in the gen pop, right? In general population, because we can say we love it as a tool because we know how to use it and we can use it with our clients to success. But what are you seeing outside of coaching?
So to answer your question, I don't have anyone yet that came to me and was on GLP-1s from doctor's orders. But I know, and I have relatives that are on it. Relatives or just I know people that are on it from the doctor. And one of them that comes to mind specifically, he was on Ozempic. He was on such a high dose. results stopped happening. He was feeling bad, and they just switched into tirzepatide and also on a high dose. And I'm talking 8 milligrams a week, and it's unnecessarily high. And my biggest issue is these are old people. I'm talking grandparents, old people. When you shut give it such a thing, yes, they're overweight, yes, they're needed, yes, they're losing weight, wonderful, they're being healthy-ish in a way. But at the same time, older people who never took care of themselves are so fragile. And if you give them such a high dose of Ozempic to the point they can't eat, what are we going to talk about their bone structure, their internal health from all the lack of micronutrients they're not getting from not eating? And they don't even recommend a multivitamin to somewhat compensate. So that's where my issue comes. They're gonna just trip and they're gonna break their leg in half because of how weak their bones are, how weak their joints are. They are overweight. They have knee pain already. Yes, as they lose weight, that knee pain from the weight will come down. But if we're not eating like good sources of protein to get some collagen and to get some glycine and to strengthen the joints and the bones somehow, that pain is not gonna go away. It's just gonna be caused by another reason. And God forbid they have any ACL tear or any knee issues to where they have to get surgery at that age. Or God forbid, same thing. They fall, they break something, and now they barely can move because first of all, they're very overweight. Second of all, now they have a broken leg. And third of all, they're older people. Like you can't just give them, yeah, just take this, and when you stop losing weight, just bump it up more. In whose head, in whose sane mind is that a normal thing? It makes no sense when when you think about it. And I would love to hear an explanation from them, like a proper explanation as to why they give such a high dose instead of doing a minimal dose and implementing other things, which are eating healthy, moving more, making sure you at least have some knowledge on the minimal amount of micronutrients and food you should be getting.
I would be interested in seeing the clinical trials because I haven't done, I've just started looking into GLP-1s more so myself because I was starting to see it more. So I was like, obviously, I need to know what the fuck I'm talking about. Um, but where was I going with that? I lost
You
it.
were talking about the clinical trials.
What was that?
You were talking about the clinical trials. Like you would love to know
Yes,
what.
yes, yes. Thank you. I would love to see what the numbers were for dosages in clinical trials and what they used for reference because I wonder if they're going based off of clinical doses. Because I know a lot of times with like supplements, especially, things are underdosed and they work just fine. Or I'd say underdosed, but
Yeah,
compared to clinical
what they
trials,
use. Yeah.
and they work just fine. So I wonder if that might be where there is some disconnect. I would be interested in seeing more about that. But
On those kind of trials and researches, we also gotta consider how control they are because you always hear people coming at you as like, oh, the research says this and this and that, so you're wrong, whatever. I'm like, well, the research was made in a lab in a controlled environment with every single thing being under strict measurement instead of outside and doing life and doing your day-to-day habits and stuff. So it's like those things do play a part. And one of the things that I got shitted on back in the days on threads was out of my belief from fasted cardio being better for burning fat than fed cardio, and I got shitted on like literally, oh, the research, oh, and this and that. Well, I'm like, but the research was not done on a bodybuilder that is living their regular life. So it's like,
that's most people. Like all of realistically, even people who just go to the gym who try to live a healthy lifestyle, like the majority of the research if it was done within the last 20 years, is done on people who do not live healthy lives.
yeah,
So it almost doesn't even apply to you.
not really.
Which
But
and
even
then
if they
like we
were,
run
even if they were, it's still most of them are done again in a controlled environment. So you cannot really measure the impact of anything on someone living their day-to-day life. You can see the impact directly on the body based on that situation because you're not having them do anything else. You're not having them eat anything that you are not controlling or just living their lives. So yeah, of course, That's how I believe things, sorry, that's what I believe that you should always go from the research, yes, as a starting point, but besides that, I feel like your experience and the things that you see happening with it are gonna be a major influence and can definitely go against so research. And
And,
still,
and I mean, I think there's a difference between leveraging science and completely abandoning responsibility. Like
yeah,
you can't shortcut your way to your goals, right? Like you can outsource effort in a couple areas, but not ownership,
yeah,
right? And so I think that's another big issue with like the GLP-1s and things is that people are trying to use it as just like a final solution, kind of like we're talking about. Like if you're not eating, obviously you're going to lose weight. If you don't eat food, you're going to lose weight. Is it going to be healthy? Is it going to be muscle? Is it going to be, like you said, your bone density? Like, that stuff is a different story, but you will lose weight. So I think that's kind of where people are focused. And I don't think they're really focusing on the health aspect. I think it really is just the number on the scale is what they're looking at.
that was really about to say. They just go on the surface level of things. But here's the thing, they don't know. The doctors don't tell them. The doctors are just focused also on like, yeah, you're overweight. We need to get your scale weight down, but they don't really explain the consequences of taking this and taking this at high doses and what would happen when they don't eat properly and they don't get again the micronutrients they need at the minimal amount they need. So that's where the issue comes in with most people having all those awful side effects and feeling like shit and getting extremely weak and not being able to now live their lives because they can barely function. Like they have barely any energy to stand out from the bed.
Because yeah, at that point too, because most of these people have very poor relationships with food, right? So they don't really truly understand what hunger cues really even are. But so when you start adding in drugs like that, like there's a complete disconnection from hunger cues because now they're not hungry or can't eat at all, basically. But their brains are still going to tell them to because it's not necessarily that physical hunger cue that was making them eat in the first place. It was the emotional one. And so now with the metabolic slowdown and the muscle loss, like I can see where GLP-1s could cause someone a greater step back in their health, when not done properly.
Yeah, and it's either they take steps back once they stop taking it, or they have to stay on it for life. God forbid for anything worse to happen after being in such a deprived state of
Wow.
just food. But yeah, it's like you said, their food relationship with food and proper food habits are not there, are not taught to them. So it's like, what would you expect?
And they have a high dependency on just injections instead of learning behaviors or learning the true biology behind what's going on.
For
And I
example,
think
the one last thing in this same topic that so for the older people that I was mentioning earlier, they're barely eating, but when they eat, they still eat kind of junk. They drink regular sodas on a daily or beer, stuff like that. So like not even that, they still have the old knowledge or the knowledge they always had when it comes to food and what they eat and what not. But hey, they're losing weight because they are on 9-10 milligrams of GLP-1. It's like,
so. Let's dive into that a little bit because you're way too smart to speak in generalities this whole time. GLP-1s are a very very new thing that I feel like became very mainstream very fast.
yeah,
I don't think most people don't know what they are. Realistically, even the people that are getting them from their doctors because they don't question prescriptions from their doctors. You know what I mean? If they go to their doctor with an issue and their doctor says, take this, that'll solve your issue, I don't think people question it. So let's dive in a little bit into what exactly GLP-1s are and what they do.
so just to keep it in as simple as terms as we possibly can. So they are receptor agonists. So the GLP-1. Let's go with. We want to go with anyone specific because, of course, you have multiple receptor agonists or so.
Let's start with Ozempic for our first GLP-1 just because I do think that is the most common one prescribed to people.
Yeah. So when it comes to Ozempic, what someone will see from doing that by working on as an agonist to the GLP-1 receptor is going to be like the hunger suppression, which is usually Ozempic is the biggest one when it comes to hunger suppression. Is when you're looking for that, that's probably what you're gonna go for because it's the strongest one in that aspect. From that, you will also have the slower gastric emptying and slower motility to make you still feel also fuller for longer and not have that urge to need or that urge to eat or that appetite that will have you going for cravings or junk food or even eating when bored because you're gonna still feel constantly full and you're gonna even look at food as like, ugh, kind of like a disgust, kind of like you're, yeah, no, thank you. So when it comes to that, that's also when people start seeing the fat loss, or sorry, weight loss coming off, mostly because you're just not eating, you're fuller for longer. So it helps you stick with a higher or a more drastic calorie deficit, therefore making weight loss easier. There has been times where it's shown to improve other conditions like type 2 diabetes, especially the one that comes next, tirzepatide, with the GIP agonist, also has been shown to help reduce inflammation, internal inflammation as well, and low-grade inflammation. So you do have the health benefits, but then again, each one, the newer ones, are always going to have a little bit newer. So Ozempic is mostly, as far as as far as my knowledge goes, is you're mostly going to see the weight loss and the appetite suppression and everything straight and simple. Sepatide will be like the next level to where you want to get a little bit more of like improving insulin sensitivity, having those inflammation go down and stuff of the like. To where I personally preferred, I wouldn't even consider Ozempic myself or for clients at all. But then again, you want to see, okay, what's your ideal goal? Are you having some Are you dealing with some metabolic issues that we need to take care of? Are you having trouble sticking with the diet, having a lot of cravings, having just a very hard time trying to drop weight, and that's your main goal, but everything else is good. So based on which way you want to go, that's based on your goal, that's where you decide which way you want to go, whether it's if it's Ozempic with the doctor or tirzepatide or even the newest one. I call it the Holy Grail because I love it, the tirzepatide.
I'm gonna have to look into. I'm Reddit right? Is that the one? Yeah. I had to pull it up because I had another coach reach out to me recently about one of their clients that came to them, and this was the one I was talking about for what was it? She was older. She was like 90 pounds. This was the issue is that her leptin levels were really low,
Hmm.
and then so because her leptin was really low, her doctor wanted to put her on GLP-1s, and I was like that. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that doesn't make any fucking sense
No,
because
even if
you're going to lead like you're going to have further hypothalamic disconnection as well as like worsening metabolic adaptation. Your gut mobility is going to slow down, cortisol is going to spike. Like where should people be the most cautious for using GLP-1?
yeah, sorry, can you hear me? Okay. So sorry, I had to mute for a second because I had to sneeze. I
You're fine.
was just concerned from the very moment that you said she was 90 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, why would you
Yep.
put someone on GLP-1 that is under 100 pounds? I don't know. Even if their leptins are dysregulated, even if there's some metabolic issue, I would never think of a GLP for someone like that, which will shown as again slow gastric emptying, reduce hunger levels, and all those stuff.
I feel like even if they were overweight, so let's flip the script on that one. So let's say they are overweight and it's still
Right.
the same issue, low leptin, right? I still think that's not the answer because you're messing with the signals in your brain instead of like the actual root cause. Like, because you're not going to fix the leptin by putting someone on GLP-1s. So you're not going to fix the actual
Issue.
issue that they're running into for, in this case, would be losing weight now, right? So,
Yeah.
but like, shouldn't we be looking more at like stabilizing blood sugars, electrolytes, things like that, and getting someone to a more balanced state? I
Yeah. And I
mean,
would even say like, what's their movement like during the day? It just
I would need to get more back from this, but that was
no, no, no,
I
but I mean
wanted
like
to get
that
specific.
hypothetical case of them being
Yeah.
overweight and stuff. it's just like, okay, how much movement are you getting through the day? Are you even working a sedentary job, or are you working from home behind the desk all day, or do you work a physical job, which probably not. But anyway, let's just see like from the very basics. What's your movement like? What's your exercise levels are like, or how much the amount of exercise you do on a weekly basis? Are you just going to walks? Are you just doing cardio? Are you just lifting? Are you doing a mix of anything, or maybe some like, I don't know, Zumba classes or whatever? Or are you not doing absolutely anything? I would just start from like the very basic things. And that's something that my dad taught me. So he's an engineer, and he always told me about things he fixed, whether it was like cars, si- uh sorry, electronic components on a computer, or as a house, like all the electronic system and everything. He's like, always go on the simplest thing. Start on the simplest thing because first of all, it's gonna be the cheapest one. So even if it's not,
Usually.
yeah, even if it's not the issue, the root cause of the issue, you didn't spend much money. Now, a lot of people think like, oh, so this something is wrong with the engine. Let's just go on the deep stuff. Let's just pull it all apart. And it was just a fuse that was unplugged. You know what I mean? So I got that from him. So always start at the very, very bottom level things, like the basic things most people overlook or just don't think anything of it. Because sometimes you make a slight change in that, and over the first 2, 3, 4 days, then they already start seeing a difference. Someone who walks 3,000, 4,000 steps a day, you make them double that, I guarantee they will see a difference. They will feel and they will see a difference. So just start from the very bottom. Like I always make sure makes me even sound bad when I ask this to my clients. Like I even sometimes clarify, it's like, I'm not trying to make you feel stupid or anything. This is just my concern. Are you drinking your water? Are you salting your meals? Yeah, no, I usually don't salt my meals. I just cook with some salt and that's it. I'm like, okay, let's just start salting our meals.
Yeah, just a little bit of pink salt, maybe some sea salt, get something with some minerals in there. Yeah, I see that all the time. But so we differentiate a little bit on GLP-1s, I think, because I am more against it just from the aspect of I know that the general population is not going to use it right. Like they're just not. And I, especially if they're not, if you're working with a coach and for me specifically, if you're working with me and you want to use GLP-1s, I'm probably going to tell you that you don't need them for the same things that you're saying.
Why?
Because you're not getting your steps, you're not getting your sleep, you're not getting your hydration, you're not getting your nutrition.
You're not taking boxes.
So that's why I'm against it. I'm not against the drug itself. I'm against the fact that people are going to use it as a shortcut, and there are doctors who are going to just hand it out like candy, right?
100%.
And so that's where I'm against it. However, if we flip the script again and we go back towards maybe some more competitive aspects, or maybe people who are on top of it, right? People who are on top of all their shit, then we can start looking at GLP-1s. um and I know I have a couple friends who are just starting it for their cutting phase at the moment. And you said you have not used retatrutide, but how would you use it in your program?
Okay, so first of all, I'll say like I 100% agree with you. I would not have it bring out, oh, I want to use Ratuta. Okay, yeah, let's just get it. No, absolutely not. But if the person is doing everything they need and I feel and I see the benefit from using it responsibly, yeah, I will consider it. I would not be like, yeah, 100% let's use it. I will consider it. And then I will sit on it for probably for like a day or two. And then it's like, if it makes sense, okay, let's move forward with it. I have two types of clients right now that are using it. Nice balloons. One is a person who is like on the bigger side. He's not a competitor or anything, but his metabolic health is not that good. So we were already on very low calories and his body was just not wanting to go. So he was dealing with extreme hunger. He was dealing with a little bit of fatigue. So I'm like, I don't want to pull food down any further. So let's let's flip the switch around. Let's start moving food up a little bit just so your body can use it, but then
I was
also
just
let's
going to say a
help.
small, like, reverse diet phase.
But then as well, just using a little bit of retatrutide to just get that glucagon receptor aspect on it and help you mobilize and lose the fat from that. So just like a little bit of help. And then the second type of person will be, again, someone on. I actually have two prep clients right now that are on it. One of them, she is 2.5 weeks out, I believe, and we are doing 1.5 milligrams a week. That's all.
That's a lot less than 8. That's a that's a lot less than 8.
The weight loss, and she is dropping fast. Like she's dropping 2 or 3 pounds a week.
And
She's
she's the one you increased her food, or this is a different.
No, that's a different client. The increase
Okay,
the food
okay.
was just like a lifestyle client on the bigger side who was just
Gotcha,
the,
gotcha.
the smartest way was not to pull down food. Uh, Probably like 510 or something like that, and like eating 1,600 calories and kind of like stalled.
Yeah,
And doing his due
that's pretty
diligence.
low.
Yeah. But then, of course, you also have the biofeedback, like the poor sleep, the energy, the brain fog, and anything. So pulling food down was not the answer.
His body was asking for more at that point.
So the other person, the competitor, same thing, just a little bit. And you were asking, how would I use it? So I took a peptides masterclass with my coach Kuza, Dom Kuza, and he explained that the way to go was once a week because you will, doing microdosing, you will desensitize the receptors that are in charge of absorbing and redeploying and causing its effects, right? So when I tried the tirzepatide myself, I did just 1 milligram a week, and I just did once a week. Work wonders. But there's also on the other side of the coin, I'm thinking, okay, first of all, how long does it take to start desensitizing to where we would need to increase the dose? We will see lesser effects with the same dose, so things start to hit a plateau. I yet have not seen it with my client, and she's doing 3 times 0.5 milligrams a week. Then I hear also, for example, Nick Walker, who does a microdose every single day from Reda, and he has not used less than more than 2 milligrams a week, even for prep, from what he claims. So I'm like, okay, we do see also more benefits when it comes to it because we have more steady levels of it. We don't see too much of a drastic decrease in appetite, which I've seen with a third client that I'm using, another competitor, that she took 1 milligram, nausea, lack of appetite, like drastic. She couldn't eat. She was like fatigued and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, stop taking it for a week. And then after a week, once things regulate a little bit, let's start microdosing and see how you feel. And now she feels perfect.
Which is another reason to like titrate up into doses is because like imagine if you had started her on a couple of milligrams instead of like,
But that's the
you know,
thing. I
that
always go back to like, let's do the least possible. So 1 milligram. How much less than that can you take really realistically? So there's not much less that you can do. And if she's still feeling those drastic side effects from it, I don't want her doing that while feeling like that while on prep when we are already on a deficit. Like
yeah,
that's
you're
just,
already gonna feel not great on prep all the time. Like that's
yes.
already a struggle in and of itself. So adding in any further stressors, because not only I don't think people on the outside understand, right? So obviously anyone in the competitive world or even just with friends in the competitive world have a much better understanding. But I think as far as like the general population goes, when it comes to the importance of feeling good, I think they really underestimate it. And so when we feel good, we perform better, we sleep better, we recover better. And that's not like some weird psychological thing. Like that's just it is part of our biology. Like the two things are interconnected.
But
So
then you also,
adding any additional stress. Go ahead.
yeah, you also got to consider from those lifestyle general population people is what does it mean to feel good to them? And the perfect example I would tell you is going back to a testosterone level, someone on having just a level of 450, let's say. But they claim, oh, I feel amazing. I don't need TRT. I'm like, you feel like that your whole life. So that's your normal. So that's why you feel great. But once you increase that, now you will truly know what feels great. So going back to the general population is what is feeling great to them mean? Because they may feel good, decent, and they may think that's their normal. And it's like, oh, this is as good as I will feel. But no, things are not working well. So you're not truly feeling that good. You're just dealing with it. You're just used to feeling that way. And I actually had this conversation with an older client, older, like he's not working with me anymore. But he was saying, yeah, my digestion's good. I'm like, okay, what does good mean to you? Do you go to the bathroom every day? Are you bloated? Yeah, sometimes I don't go to the bathroom, or sometimes I go just once and it's kind of like a little bit. Sometimes I do get bloated after some meals. I'm like, that is not normal. That is not good.
And I think
But
that's why it's so important for us too as coaches to have those things like HRV, cortisol, so that we can really look at like the nervous system dysregulation
yeah,
and make sure that we're not sabotaging the progress, right? Because like you're saying, just because you feel good doesn't mean that you can't feel better. And so, and especially in America, right? Most of us are, and I mean, 20% of children are obese, not overweight. 1 in 5 children are obese. Those kids, if they don't, I hate to say it, get fixed because it's not their responsibility, they're children. If the parents don't fix that situation, they're never going to know what it feels like to feel good.
it's 100% the parents' fault.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fucking child abuse, and I'll stand by that all day long. I'll look a parent in the face and say it's your fault. I don't care.
I agree. Do you know what actually broke my heart when I was getting my citizenship? On the waiting room, there was this lady which seemed young but looked older, obviously, because of her health aspect. She was obese, very obese. She was sitting down. She's kind of like on the shorter stature, so her feet wouldn't reach the ground. But from how obese she was, you could tell she could not reach her shoes. Her ankles were swollen, like the size of someone's bicep. Like all her feet, her legs, you could see like she would not be able to put her shoes on, or at least she would struggle a lot. And that really broke my heart because, first of all, what has happened for you to get to that point? And also, how bad you truly must feel, like not just mentally, but just physically, and seeing other people that are not as big. And how does that affect you? It's like, oh, I wish I could be like that and stuff like that. And what is stopping you really from reaching that point? Is it a bad environment? Are other people at your household the same way? Is there anything going on health wise that is just completely preventing you to lose weight?
Because as we know, it's not just calories in, calories out. So yes, most likely that child is overeating. Absolutely. However, that doesn't mean that there's not other things at play as well. And
You know
especially,
what I would say with calories in, calories out?
let's hear it.
I would say it is calories in, calories out, but how much calories is that and why?
And how much of those calories are from nutrition? Like how much
Exactly.
nutrients are you actually getting from those calories?
So at the very baseline, yeah, if you eat less calories that you burn, you will probably lose weight unless your body's completely fucked up.
Right,
But
but
then
how much of it's muscle and bone density and
yeah, but what I mean is, for example, based on health level and your internal health, where is that point that you need to go down to for you to be able to
yeah.
lose weight? Is it like 900 calories because your body's completely shut down, or is it 2200 calories because you're very metabolically healthy? So, in one aspect, yes, it is calories in, calories out, but in the other aspect is how fucked up are you for those calories to be what you need to go to be able to keep losing weight or to be able to see some sort of weight drop or any kind of progress at all. And then that's where the internal health, the liver, the gut, the thyroid, and everything else comes into play. Like, let's raise that baseline to where you actually can lose weight, still feel good, and actually nourish your body with all the micronutrients and the things you need to be able to perform properly as a normal fucking human being should.
Yeah. Well, because that's like if you have a sports car, right? And you put regular gasoline in it. I mean, that's essentially what people are doing to their bodies. You know what I mean? They're like, my body needs this high quality fuel to perform at optimal levels. And we're like, here's McDonald's. And then people wonder why their shit's all fucked up.
Multiple
But
times a week.
yeah, yeah, it's a whole thing. I do think education is a big part of it. And that is where I do feel for the parents when it does come to the children and obesity and that epidemic is like a lot of us just don't have that education, but like you said, in today's world that's so not an excuse. because like I don't have any formal education in exercise science, physiology, anything like that as far as schooling or like a degree, right? I have my certifications, but I don't have a degree. I actually am working on my degree in psychology as it relates to everything else. But you don't need a formal education to educate yourself.
Not today's days, no.
No. And that's like all you really need to do is find a better circle, I think, is what it comes down to. Is like if you are the same as everyone else in your circle or you're at the top of your circle and you're comfortable, like I think you need to do
Switch it.
better. Yeah, do
Absolutely.
better. And I think that applies to not only fitness and bodybuilding, but just your general health. Like if you're the people you hang out with are indirectly causing you to make your family and your children unhealthy, cut them off. Get rid of them. I don't care if they're family. I don't care if they're blood. I don't care if they pulled you out of a burning fire. If they're making your life, your family, your household, your children unhealthy,
Out.
out.
And that's one advantage that I consider to have, as cold and as heartless as it may sound. Look, I left my whole family, or like 95% of my family, 6,000 miles away. You think I won't cut you off if you don't serve my purpose or if you don't bring anything positive to me? Like, you are very wrong. I don't give a fuck who you are. I would cut you off in a blink of an eye. Family,
Absolutely.
non-family, friends, relative, neighbor, roommate, whatever the fuck. If you start affecting my life negativity, you are out. You're absolutely out, and I will give no explanation. You're like deuces.
Well, and it really does loop back into your own physical health. Like if you're putting yourself in a situation where you are, and I've run into this where people are talking about someone else and it's like you just hung out with that person. Like and you're telling me that they're like draining your battery and not putting anything into you.
So hanging out.
Yeah. Like what are you doing?
I
And I
would
think
admit it that I know. So right now I'm working into increasing my income to a point that I can move out, ideally out of state, and
uh,
have the place of my own and everything. And I know for a fact, and as again, it's gonna sound awful, but I know for a fact that once I get to that point, there's people that I'm cutting communication for probably
you
good.
have
I
to.
may see them
You
on
have to.
holidays. I may see them on very few times a year, but you will not be part of my close circle or life anymore because you are not the type of person I want to be surrounded with. All respectful, I love you, I wish you the best, but I just don't want you around in my life anymore.
Yeah, I might post a happy birthday on Facebook, but that might be the end of it, you
Yeah,
know. And I've gone through phases in my life where that happens, and you're allowed to circle back to people too. You know what I mean? You can be like, "Hey, I need to fix myself, get myself into a situation," and then after a while, even if it's a year, like a year is not a lot of time.
yeah. And people
Circle
may
back, be like,
change,
"Hey, how you doing?"
and people may change to the point that, okay, let's say this is my goal, but you're keeping me here. You separate yourself from that person, but then eventually, for whatever reason, you can, like you said, you can circle back to them, and now you find them they are at the same level. They got better on that time you guys were not in touch. And who's to say that you can't start becoming friends again or having any sort of relationship once that happens, once you guys meet at the same level?
Yeah, you're allowed to outgrow people, and I think you need
That's
to
the
be
whole
able to be responsible enough to acknowledge that people can outgrow you as well. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
And
it's
that's
one of those
okay.
things where it's like that's fine. That just means I wasn't keeping up.
Yeah.
And it's like I need to keep up. Let's do it. Let's go. You know what I mean? But there's those people aren't that hungry.
And sometimes
So,
that is a wake up call
yeah,
for people who is
absolutely.
like, shit, that person's leaving me because I'm being detrimental. What am I doing wrong? Why should I change? And that is how you wake up and start improving yourself and catching up again.
Absolutely. So, you just mentioned working on moving out of state and everything. So, what are you building right now? What's next? Are you working on your own legacy? Are you just focused on impact? What work are you working on creating right now?
So first of all, I want to build very successful coaching roster. That was my dream since I started working as a personal trainer, like in-person trainer. I would love to work online. I would love to be able to just do that, build a life based on that, just having that give me a good amount of income for me to live and enjoy life and be able to still help like people competing or people just trying to look better, or as such as myself that I come from not knowing anything to competing eventually. You just want to get healthier, or whoever it is that wants to improve in that aspect and become feel better, do better, look better, whatever it is. Then we started a project with Mackenzie from ECA as well. So I can't say that yet. I can't say what it is, but when she
Same.
came to me with that idea, I'm like, okay, now that makes me excited. Now, okay, yes. So we started just putting things moving on, and I feel this is gonna be good. It's gonna take a lot of trial and error, but it's gonna be very good. And it's like,
I think
that
there's
makes
a
me
lot of yeah,
excited.
there's a lot of underground stuff going on right now in ECA, I
Yeah,
think. There's a lot of networking happening
love it. I
behind
absolutely
the
love it.
scenes, which is sick. It's amazing.
And I would only say that so I love anything that has to do with the kitchen and cooking. One of my childhood dreams was like culinary
So
school.
I do know exactly what you're talking about. We'll
Yeah,
talk afterwards. Yeah.
we'll leave it there. But fuck, that got me fired up. I started playing around a little bit
Yeah.
yesterday, and it didn't came good. But I will perfect that.
Well, that's her and I talked about it when we first met, and I was like, "You absolutely need to do that." You know what I mean? Like, so I think, and that's part of this community that just I love so much too. Is just that I've never met so many people
I
that
like
weren't, well, yeah, that are very alike, but they weren't just cheerleaders. You know what I mean? They weren't just like, "Oh yeah, you should do that," which is in and of itself is rare, right? Because most people try to hold you back, but they genuinely support you too. Because it turns into not only, yes, you should do this, but it's like, how can I help you? How can I be involved? What can we do? How can this benefit both of us? And people are like, hey, let's build. You know what I mean? And I think that's
it's
just
as
insane.
tiny as using someone's code on their whatever page they have or supplement or whatever it is, like Leland with Straight Labs. I don't even know the guy, but you're pretty much family. Like we're part of ECA. Yeah, I got you. I'd rather support you than any bodybuilder sponsored by Straight Labs that I have no idea who it is, or sorry, I do have idea who it is, but they don't have any idea who I am.
Well,
So
and
I
that's
would love
I
that support.
actually just signed. I don't have my code yet, but I actually just signed the contract with Eminent Nutrition
Nice.
to start doing that. So I'm excited about that too. You don't have one yet? It's all right. You
So
can use my code. It's fine.
there you go. I don't know with supplement companies. I know I shouldn't be picky, but at the same time, I am picky. I don't wanna ask for it. I want people to be
To
like,
come to you for it. Yeah, I hear you.
not in a way that, oh, I want people to beg for me. No, no, no. I
No.
want them to recognize I could bring value to their company and ask me to say, hey, I would love for you to be part of our team. And I'm also very picky with the companies I use, and I will probably only work with them. Like I understand some bodybuilders they switch back and forth with companies because monetary issues, their career, whatever. Fine, good for you. I prefer to not be part of it of anything unless
Mhm.
it's very specific brands that I personally use, I personally like, I personally recommend, and stuff like that. So I know a lot of companies have like the affiliate program.
Well, that's I've learned my lesson through that as well. Because when I first started, like really working out in my early 20s, I just turned 30, so this is 8 plus years ago. I'm not going to say which company because I'm actually not sure if they're even still around, but the owners went to jail. The owners were bodybuilders who went to jail for intentionally mislabeling their products and putting things in their products that were not only not what they said they were, but illegal. So they were putting like actual, yeah. But I'll tell you which company to look up. But one of the owners split up and made his own company, which is a very popular company now, or at least was. I haven't seen anything on the shelves, but I know they were on the shelves even on the military bases and everything. And I was like, I know where you started. I know where you came from.
That's some dark shit.
Um, yeah, and I mean, anyone listening, I'm sure could figure it out given that timeline with enough research. But Dude, as much as I would love to keep yapping, I'm just looking and seeing that we're just over an hour here.
Yeah,
We didn't have a lot of time to get into a lot of sciencey stuff, so I'm gonna have to obviously have you back again.
I will.
So this wasn't just a story about citizenship or science. It was about sovereignty in yourself, right? So it's about becoming the kind of human who owns their biology, owns their identity, and owns their mission. So if you're still outsourcing your leadership to macros, medications, or some external motivation, this episode should piss you off just enough to change or find someone who can help you. Go follow Matthias. Matthias, what's your Instagram handle?
It's my first and last name's at Matias Kalmar. It's
Yes, excuse me.
no, you're good. You're good. That's just the Argentinian way to say it. You say it the American way, which now I can actually start saying it the American way since I am American.
There you go. There you go.
So Matias Kalmar, and
All
yeah,
right,
all my
perfect.
socials are the same.
Perfect. And I'll tag you and everything as well. And you know where to find me at SPG Fitness and Wellness. This was SPG Unfiltered. Reclaim your life, master your mind, and build your body. Until next time.